The night was quiet, but something felt off. As a police dog, Rex could smell danger before it even arrived. Little did the criminals know, they were about to face their worst nightmare. The bustling police station was filled with activity, officers exchanging quick updates, phones ringing, and footsteps echoing off the polished floors. In the middle of the chaos, one figure stood still, Rex, the K9 officer. His golden eyes scanned the room, never missing a detail. His fur gleamed under the harsh overhead lights, but it was his presence, calm yet alert, that set him apart from the rest. Jake Carter, his handler, worked diligently at his desk, sorting through case files. The bond between them was unspoken, built on years of trust and shared experiences. As the night shift rolled on, Rex remained poised and ready, his ears twitching at every sound, his nose catching every scent. He wasn't just a dog. He was a partner, an unshakable guardian for the officers around him. Tonight, however, something felt different. Rex's instincts were on high alert. The air was charged, but what was coming? The night air outside the station was still, the only movement coming from the occasional passing car. But inside, Rex was anything but still. His body was rigid, every muscle tensed. Something was off, and he could feel it in his bones. Jake Carter glanced over at his partner, sensing the change in the air. "What is it, boy?" he murmured, looking up from his papers. Rex's amber eyes locked with his handlers, a silent communication between them. Before Jake could ask further, the radio crackled to life. Unit 47, suspicious vehicle spotted near the warehouse district. Proceed with caution. Jake's hand instinctively reached for his gear. "Looks like we have a call, Rex. Stay sharp." Rex's tail didn't wag, it was stiff, his focus narrowing in on the radio transmission. Jake clipped on his badge and grabbed his flashlight, but he knew Rex had already assessed the situation far beyond what his human senses could detect. They were headed into something more dangerous than a routine patrol. Rex stood, his muscles poised, ready to move. The hunt was on, and he wasn't about to let anything slip through the cracks. Jake's car cruised through the quiet streets, the city's distant lights casting a soft glow over the pavement. The warehouse district loomed ahead, a place known for its shadows, where danger always seemed to linger. The air felt colder here, thick with the scent of oil, rust, and something else Rex couldn't place. His nose twitched, sniffing the air, as his eyes remained locked on the road ahead. He wasn't just a dog. Rex was a hunter, and the thrill of the chase surged through him. He could already smell the faint traces of something criminal, something that didn't belong. As they neared the warehouse, Rex's body went taut, his ears perked forward and his teeth clenched slightly, a low growl bubbling up from deep in his throat. Jake could feel the shift in the air as well. Something was wrong. "Easy, boy," Jake whispered, glancing at his partner. Rex's golden eyes never wavered, his sharp gaze trained on the dark, abandoned lot outside the warehouse. They stopped. Jake stepped out of the car, his flashlight cutting through the shadows, as Rex leapt from the passenger seat, landing silently on the pavement beside him. Every movement was precise, fluid, as if the two were one. As they approached, Rex's nose twitched. The scent of gunpowder lingered faintly in the air, mixed with sweat and tension. Inside the warehouse, figures moved, their silhouettes barely visible in the low light. Rex could feel the weight of eyes on them, hidden predators waiting in the darkness. Jake nodded toward Rex. "Stay close. Let's go see what we're up against." But as they crept closer to the entrance, Rex's growl deepened, a warning that cut through the silence like a blade. Inside the warehouse, shadows moved like whispers, each figure blending with the darkness, their presence barely noticeable. But Rex saw it all, his instincts sharp, his eyes cutting through the gloom. Jake felt the tension in the air. Something was about to break. Rex's growl echoed softly, low but unmistakable, as they neared the door. Jake froze, his hand on his flashlight, every muscle taut with anticipation. They had walked into a trap, and they knew it. The criminal underworld had a way of setting things up, but Rex wasn't fooled. Jake motioned to Rex. "Stay close, partner." With a nod, Rex crouched low, his body a coiled spring, ready to spring into action. As they reached the edge of the warehouse, the faint sound of voices cut through the stillness. A man stepped forward, his cold eyes glinting in the dim light. Dante, the mastermind behind the operation. Not a step closer. Dante's voice was smooth, calculated. As he stepped from the shadows, his men surrounding him. Jake didn't flinch. His grip tightened on his flashlight, and he silently acknowledged the risk. Rex, however, was a different story. The dog's posture was perfect, every fiber of his being focused on the threat. He was ready for a fight, ready to protect. Dante smirked, taking a slow, deliberate step toward Rex. "That dog's smarter than half your crew, isn't he?" Dante's voice was mocking, but there was an edge to it. He knew the danger Rex posed. Without warning, Rex lunged forward faster than any human could react, a blur of muscle and precision. Dante's eyes widened as Rex's powerful jaws snapped shut just inches from his face. The criminals around them hesitated, uncertain, unsure of how to handle the sudden force of nature before them. "Get rid of the dog," Dante barked, his voice strained. But Rex wasn't just any dog. He was an officer, a protector, and he wasn't about to let anyone harm his handler. Dante stood at the back of the warehouse, his eyes darting between his men, who were stumbling back, bewildered by the sudden onslaught. His crew, once so confident, were now faltering under the relentless assault of Rex. It wasn't just the physical power of the dog that unsettled Dante, it was the precision. The dog was moving with an intelligence that didn't belong to an animal. Rex wasn't just a trained K9, he was a force, calculating every move, anticipating their next step, and executing it flawlessly. One of the men, still clutching a weapon, glanced nervously at the retreating Rex. "Boss, that dog. He's too smart." Dante's jaw clenched as he turned to face his men. "Get rid of that dog," he barked, his voice seething with frustration. "I didn't sign up for this. Deal with it." But it was already too late. Rex, like a shadow, was no longer among them. The dog's sharp eyes, gleaming with determination, locked onto Dante as he began his frantic sprint to the waiting van. Rex didn't hesitate. He was already in pursuit, his powerful limbs propelling him with a speed that no human could match. Dante had made the fatal mistake of underestimating him. Dante's foot slammed down on the gas pedal, the tires squealing as he lurched forward, the van jerking into motion. His hands gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity as he glanced nervously into the rearview mirror. The night was dark, the streets empty, but Dante knew he wasn't alone. Rex was out there, hunting him. The van tore down the street, engine roaring, headlights cutting through the night. Dante's mind raced as he navigated the winding roads. He took sharp turns, swerving wildly, hoping to lose the relentless dog on the narrow streets. But Rex, never slowing, was right there. He could hear the rapid thud of paws behind him, closer and closer with every passing second. He glanced at the rearview mirror again, and for a fleeting moment, he saw it, the flash of golden fur, the gleam of teeth in the reflection. Dante swore under his breath. "No way, not tonight!" The van swerved again, fishtailing around a corner, the tires screeching as the road became slick with rain. Dante pushed the pedal down further, but the dog was still there. No matter how fast he drove, how much he swerved, Rex was always just a few feet away. It was like the dog was made to chase, built to outpace him. With a snarl, Dante hit the brakes, attempting a sharp turn to lose the dog. But Rex was already airborne, his powerful body leaping from the ground, paw claws scraping against the metal rear doors of the van. The screech of metal on metal echoed through the street, making Dante's heart skip a beat. The dog's grip tightened. Rex wasn't going to let go. Panic clawed at Dante's insides. His chest tightened, and his breath became erratic as he tried to shake the dog. He was no longer thinking clearly. It wasn't just about evading capture anymore, it was about survival. Something primal deep within Dante's gut told him that Rex wasn't just chasing him to bring him in. It was personal now. The dog wasn't just fast, it was calculating, relentless. He swerved harder, trying to shake Rex off. The van skidded across the wet streets, fishtailing wildly as Dante fought for control. His nerves were stretched thin, and the fear was no longer something he could hide. The dog wasn't going to stop. "Come on," Dante muttered, his voice breaking as he turned the wheel violently, desperate to lose Rex. But the dog's claws were digging into the van now, and Rex wasn't giving up. Each time Dante tried to make a break, Rex was there, faster than his worst nightmare. Dante's palms were slick with sweat, his heart racing in his chest. His eyes flicked from the road to the rearview mirror, and there it was again, Rex's eyes, glowing in the dark, foused only on him. It hit him all at once. He was no longer facing a criminal justice system. He wasn't even facing a human adversary. He was up against something smarter than him, faster than him, something that wouldn't stop until the job was done. The fear broke through his confidence. The game had changed. He wasn't just fleeing from the police, he was running from a predator, and it was closing in fast. Dante's eyes flicked toward his men. It was chaos, his crew falling apart one by one. The warehouse was no longer a stronghold, it was a battleground. He had to act fast. "Move," Dante shouted, and in a flash he bolted for the door. His men scattered, but Rex was already closing in on him, a relentless force that refused to be shaken. Jake gritted his teeth against the pain in his shoulder. His hand trembled as he pulled himself upright, trying to regain his bearings. The adrenaline from the fight coursed through him, but he couldn't focus on anything except his partner, who was still in pursuit of Dante. "Rex!" Jake called, but the dog was already ahead, moving like a blur through the dim-lit warehouse. Rex was determined, unstoppable, and nothing would break his focus. Not the criminals, not the gunfire, and certainly not Dante's fleeing figure. Dante's van roared to life, the engine roaring as he slammed his foot on the gas, tires screeching on the cracked asphalt. He glanced nervously in the rearview mirror, his eyes wide with panic. "That dog's right on my tail." Rex was faster. The van fishtailed, struggling for traction as Dante slammed it into high gear, but Rex was gaining. His paws pounded against the pavement, his body moving like a machine, his every instinct honed for this moment. He wasn't just chasing a van, he was chasing down the man who had threatened everything he held dear. Jake. The streetlights flickered as the van zoomed down the deserted street, but Rex was right there, relentless in his pursuit. Dante's pulse raced, his grip tightening on the wheel. He kept glancing at the side mirror, seeing nothing but the blur of fur and fury. The van swerved violently, trying to shake Rex off, but Rex wouldn't let go. He leapt, his claws scraping against the van's rear bumper, but he didn't let go. Every ounce of his body was dedicated to one thing: stopping Dante. Suddenly, Dante made a mistake. His eyes darted away from the mirror for just a split second, just long enough for Rex to make his move. With a surge of power, the dog launched himself toward the rear of the van, his teeth snapping shut with a deafening crack. The glass shattered, the van jolted, and Dante's heart sank. He was trapped. There was no escape. Dante's heart pounded in his chest as he swerved the van, trying to shake off the relentless dog that was attached to his vehicle like a shadow. The van screamed as it tore down the street, tires screeching against the asphalt, but Rex was unwavering, his grip unyielding. Every turn Dante made only intensified the fight. The more desperate he became, the more focused Rex became. "Not again," Dante muttered under his breath, but Rex wasn't listening. He was a blur of motion, focused only on one thing: the end of this chase. With one final determined leap, Rex hurled himself forward, his claws digging into the metal frame of the van's rear doors. The screech of metal on metal echoed through the streets, and Dante's stomach dropped. He knew he couldn't outrun Rex forever. The van suddenly jerked violently as Dante yanked the wheel, trying to evade the pursuit. But in his panic, he didn't see the barricade up ahead, a metal blockade that loomed like a giant wall in the darkness. With a deafening crash, the van slammed into the blockade. The sound of twisted metal and shattering glass filled the night air. Rex was thrown forward, his body still clinging to the rear doors as they crumpled under the impact. He rolled off the van, landing in the street with a grunt, but he immediately sprang to his feet, unshaken. The van was a wreck, its front end smashed, smoke rising from the engine. Dante stumbled out of the van, his body bruised from the impact. He staggered, eyes wild, hands fumbling as he reached for his gun. But before he could make a move, Rex was there. The dog was a blur of golden fur and fury. With one swift move, Rex launched himself at Dante, knocking the gun from his hand and slamming him to the ground. Dante gasped, the wind knocked out of him, as Rex towered over him, his growl deep and menacing. Dante tried to push himself up, but Rex wasn't done yet. He pinned Dante with a paw, his jaws snapping dangerously close to the man's face. There was no escape. The criminals had underestimated Rex, but now there was no question. The game was over. Through the dust and smoke, Jake staggered forward, blood still staining his uniform. He could barely stand, but there was no way he would let his partner finish this alone. His legs wobbled, but his focus remained. With one hand, he reached for the cuffs at his belt, his fingers trembling with exhaustion and pain. "Hold on, Rex," Jake whispered, his voice hoarse. With the last of his strength, Jake snapped the cuffs around Dante's wrists. The gang leader slumped, defeated, his eyes full of fear and disbelief. It was over. Justice had been served, and Rex had been the one to ensure it. If you like my video, please like it and subscribe to my channel.